I'm sensing. Surely now your patience must be slightly tested, and the Mayor of Middlesbrough strikes me as a decent man standing up for his town and not prepared to take any more of these diktats which he believes will be ruinous for Middlesbrough.
It is tested. You're not wrong about that, mate. And it may be that in the end you're right, and I'm wrong. I thought the original lockdown was absolutely right. We didn't know what we were dealing with. Lots of people were succumbing to this illness. 60,000 people died. It seemed to me right that we ought to try to protect them. Since then, however, things have got bizarre. And there is no way of describing the way the government has behaved in the last 3 months other than bizarre. And the wonderful thing is that whilst in the House of Commons, there is no opposition to this. So when Boris Johnson announces something, Keir Starmer and the Labour Party and the SNP and the Liberal Democrats all demand he does more. That doesn't happen up in the northeast of England, in my hometown, because they don't give a monkeys.
About the coronavirus crisis, they don't care.
They don't care. They think it is absolutely absurd, ridiculous, and I find myself coming around to their point of view on this. And the reason they've done it, and this is the important thing, it's just really important, is that within the House of Commons, there is no opposition to this stuff. But on Teesside, which was this massive thing in the Red Wall, when the last election came along, the Conservatives wiped out Teesside, and elected in their place were Conservatives, but also independents. And that's the thing. Teesside is governed by independents who are not beholden to the political views of the Labour Party or the Conservatives. And they think it's all, if I can put it like this, as it was put to me by the Deputy Mayor of Middlesbrough earlier, utter bollocks.
Well, that one go. I mean, this is. I think that the people of Middlesbrough, the people of Teesside, strike me as the kind of independent thinkers that we need more of around the country. Because as you're talking about Parliament seems to have swallowed the narrative. Most of the media seem to have swallowed the narrative that we are in the grips of a bubonic plague-like medical menace that is going to wipe out, as Matt Hancock put it, hundreds of thousands of us, when, if you look at the statistics and the progress of this virus, it just doesn't stack up. It's okay, it's something we have to be concerned about. I agree with you. At the beginning, we didn't know what we were dealing with. 1,000 people a day were dying. The lockdown was the only course of action. Surely now the course of action should be come out of all these measures, all these local lockdowns, protect the vulnerable, allow people to be sensible, and get the damn country back on its feet.
I think that's exactly it, Kevin, mate. And more than that, I would say to remove the government from the equation a little bit, so that we behave as individuals, and we are franchised with the right to behave sensibly. Because at the moment we're not. We're told to do this, we're told to do that. We're told one day we can go out, the next day we must stay in. It's an absurdity. What we need to be told is, look, you understand the risks. You understand the nature of COVID. If you are 70 years old, or in my case, 60 years old, maybe be a bit careful about things. If you're younger than that, go and live your lives. Because at the moment, it's an absurdity. It has become more than absurd. And I think we will look back on this, much as you've been saying, Kevin, mate, with horror in the years to come.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, with retrospect, it will be seen as globally one of the great catastrophic mistake of all time. That we've never, as a race, the human race has never done this before. We've never globally decided to shut everything down to fight a virus. It's never happened. It clearly doesn't work, and yet we are seem to be locked on course. Nothing will stop our government in particular from ever worse, more draconian diktats and decrees. And Andy Preston, I think, is speaking for millions. I think what he feels is what I feel, and I'm glad you're coming round to our way of thinking, that we are in the grip of a kind of we're in a grip of a kind of madness.
I think we are in a grip of a kind of madness, and I think Andy Preston and a mate of mine who's the deputy mayor up there, Anthony High, have got it right, and they're able to get it right because they're independent, and they're not dependent, therefore, upon the political parties as to what they say, what they do, and what policies they advance. Sorry, that's not COVID, by the way.
Yeah. Look out, COVID alert.
Smoking.
Smoking, which, of course, as we've discussed before, save you from getting coronavirus. So very good health measure there, Rod, keeping the cigarettes going.
But it's really important to know that we must always have an opposition in the House of Commons. Never mind if you're right, disagree about COVID. There must always be someone to put the opposing point of view. And at the moment, and for 8 months, there has been no one to put the opposing point of view. It has been all parties saying, we must do something. The Conservative Party saying we're doing something, and all the other parties saying you must do more. And there has to be a kind of opposition to that. And that's what I think Teesside, and I'm very proud of it for doing this, has shown us. That, there can be an opposition and it can be outspoken and it can challenge the consensus. And let's see what happens.
Why are the people from your part of the world, from Teesside, from Middlesbrough, do they alone seem to be the community showing appropriate scepticism? I mean, it's not just politicians. It's most of the media who are just accepting this central narrative from Boris and the gang. We've got to do all this because we have this terrible, terrible, terrible health crisis that's going to kill millions of us. I don't accept that central narrative. I think it's a problem. I don't think it's that bad comparatively. Very few people are dying. Hospitals are still empty. And the people at Teesside seem to have worked that out. But around the country, most people are going, but I don't want to die. Boris has got to do this to save us. Why is it that only the Middlesbrough and Teesside folk seem to have worked out there's a fatal flaw in the government's argument?
Because more than any other people, perhaps in England, and also including Scotland and to a degree Wales, they've been left behind and have no trust whatsoever in Westminster. Absolutely none.
Interesting.
And so when you had the Brexit debate, Middlesbrough, there was a ward in Middlesbrough called Thorntree, the highest Leave vote in the country. Hartlepool, the highest Leave constituency in the country. These things are connected. The people of Teesside have had enough of the way in which Westminster steamrollers over them. And that's why I think when stuff like this comes up, they have no time for it whatsoever.
And Andy Preston talked of jobs. I'm not an expert on that part of the world, but I read, and it is not a place where jobs flourish. There aren't millions available. I'm sure many jobs have already gone. Many more will go up in that already employment-deprived world. He is standing up for them, isn't he? If we carry on locking down like this, if Boris says we're going to carry on, or Matt Hancock says we're going to carry on until we get the vaccine, which will be at least a year if we're lucky, that is going to devastate Middlesbrough and Teesside, isn't it?
Yes, it is, though we're used to devastation up here, frankly, Kevin.
It's a way of life.
We haven't recovered from the recession of the late 1970s, early 80s. And I don't think, even though it is hugely damaging to especially the hospitality industry in Teesside, which I have to confide to you, Kevin, does a really, really good job. The hospitality industry up here. We do like a drink.
Yes.
So it does really well. But I don't think it's that. I think the primary thing is about this absolute disrespect for what London tells us.